Thanks for joining me here. I'm Shelly Reef, and this is harp and channeling for global healing. And today I share with you a story. Several weeks ago, there was a miracle on our back porch. Some of you may have seen it on my Facebook feed. A hummingbird built a nest in a tiny wind chime and then sat on her eggs, which, by the way, are as big as a navy bean, as are those babies when they're first born. We were able to witness the entire process, from the incubation of the eggs to the birth to watching the mother feeding something that was deep down in that tiny little nest, to the little beaks appearing, to heads, little bald black heads, begging for food, which the mother brought so tentatively. And then the appearance of feathers, the birds getting bigger, finally coming up on the edge of the nest, and I knew that soon those birds would fly. It was time for them to fly. One of the birds was always at the front, and the other of the birds was always at the back, a little bit in the nest, and I wondered, is there a difference between those two babies? Well, this morning, I got a call from my sister early, asking me to come home, as the babies had finally fledged and left the nest, and one of the babies perfect in every way. And the other baby had a little deformed wing, a badly deformed wing, and would never fly. So I drove home, and I went out to where my sister had left the baby in a little box on the back porch so his mother could still feed him, which she was. And I sat and watched for a long time, and I saw how serious the deformity was, and the extent of the suffering of the baby. I don't know that it was suffering physically. It may have had broken bones from not being able to take off and fly because it landed on the concrete. But it was suffering as it watched its brother and watched its mother fly and kept trying to fly. And then the decisions that we must make in this life sometimes, the decisions that affect whether or not another creature lives or dies. And everyone has a heart that opens in this case. Most of us will probably go to a former pet or maybe a wild animal that we found that was injured. And those moments of knowing that the greatest help is maybe releasing the soul from the physical body. Just for a moment, I want to ask everyone to reflect that we actually make those choices. Well, not all of us, but the majority of humanity make those choices over whether or not creatures live or die every time they go to the grocery store. So just a perspective to consider. And if anyone's ever raised a chicken from birth, you'll know how affectionate and what strong personalities they can have. And so in my heart, there isn't a lot of difference between a chicken and a hummingbird. Sentient souls. And so I called for advice from my friends at the Wild Bird Fund in New York City, where I worked as a wildlife rehabber for 2 years, even though I already knew what they would probably say. I really needed to hear it from the best of the best. And the answer came that the best thing was to not allow this baby bird that I loved so much and that had become a part of our lives, to not allow it to suffer. Stay with me, because in a moment I'm going to tie the story of this baby bird into us right now, humanity, in this exact moment in time and space, as we survive the time of coronavirus and more. So I found the very best wildlife rehabilitation center in San Diego, and I took the baby in and I spoke to the people there and made sure that this baby was in the very best hands. I haven't received word yet of the outcome of the baby. If you would like to know, I'll be posting some very precious photos from today on my Facebook feed, so you can see those. I'm holding space, I'm praying for a miracle, because I've seen some good miracles in my lifetime. Driving in the car with that baby in the box, and that baby fixated on me, looking up at me, as if asking, what's happening? Where are we going? Why can't I just be with my mom and my brother? I dug deep to figure out what I would say to this baby, if that baby could understand my words. And I spoke to the baby about the time that I couldn't fly, the time at the end of my time in New York City, when, regardless of all of my struggles and doing every single thing that those around me had done, my wings would no longer carry me. And at that moment, I said to God, if this life is just meant for chasing money, it's really not for me. I'd rather put on my angel wings, but that's up to you. And not fast enough, but in good time, I gained some angel wings on this earth. My whole life changed, and here I am with you today. And I'm grateful to be here. And then I remembered that when the soul leaves the body, and I speak from experience because at one point, as it is with so many spiritual teachers, healers, my soul did leave my body. I had that experience, that near death or death and then coming back experience. That's another story. When the soul leaves the body, There's relief, freedom, wings beyond what the wings of a bird on earth could ever know. And so I had to remember that. And tell that baby through my heart that it was going home. To a place of no suffering. And just like all of us, even though we suffer here, we choose to stay. The will to live is enormous. And so my story circles